Speaker.
I call Lewis Wool.
Kia ora, Mr Speaker. Thank you very much for the opportunity to contribute to this third reading debate on the Social Security Amendment Bill number 3. I do note that Labor does support this legislation, and we do so because the bill has two primary purposes, the first of which is to ensure that those receiving ACC payments from their employer are treated the same as those receiving ACC payments from ACC itself, and we believe in equal treatment. I do have some questions, however, around the second aim of the bill, which is, and I quote from the Bill's Digest, an inconsistency between policy and legislation as set out in Section 61EA of the Social Security Act 1964, which has the unintended effect of giving access to accommodation supplement to some full-time students when the policy intent is that financial assistance for students is provided under the Student Allowances Regulations 1998 and the Student Loan Scheme. The interesting thing about Section 61EA, which is titled Accommodation Supplement, Section 4 of that Act says no person shall be granted an accommodation supplement if that person, subsection A, is receiving a basic grant or an independent circumstances grant under the Student Allowances Regulations 1998. So essentially it's saying that if you're receiving a student allowance, you can't additionally receive an accommodation supplement, but it doesn't say that you don't have the right to choose. That as a low-income person, you don't have the right to choose whether or not you want a student allowance or to receive the accommodation supplement as a low-income person. So fair enough, you can't get both. But actually, what's the issue about choosing the one that best suits your circumstances? And the regulatory impact statement highlighted that this whole legislation was designed because there was a loophole, and it was inequitable for the loophole to be left in different payment levels available. Well, the definition of inequitable is that it's unfair and unjust. And I actually can't see what's so unfair and unjust about a person deciding whether they want to apply as a low-income citizen of our country or a student citizen of our country to work in Income New Zealand. I want to highlight also the research that the New Zealand Union of Students Association did. So on the 10th of September 2014, Mr Speaker, they highlighted that 1 in 6 students would actually be better off not receiving student allowances. They'd be better off being a low-income person and receiving accommodation supplement. And that totals about 13,500 students, because we have approximately 82,000 students receiving student allowances in our country. So the relevance from their point of view was that if you're living in Auckland, 23.1 of the students receiving a student allowance, it would be better if they didn't. It would be better if they got a low-income accommodation supplement. If you're a student in Wellington, 16.2% of you, again, rather than get a student allowance, it would be better if you were a low-income person and you received an accommodation allowance. If you were in Hamilton or Christchurch, 14.3% of you were better off to receive an accommodation allowance. So if we look at the principles that this piece of legislation is built on, those of what's equal, what's equitable, what's fair, what's just, actually it seems pretty unjust that students don't get to choose based on their circumstances. What I also want to highlight, Mr Speaker, is that the Select Committee made a very interesting, I believe, comment in their Select Committee report. Because what they acknowledged was that the 2 submissions that they did receive, which was about student allowances, were inequitable, they were inadequate, but to quote from their report, they felt, quote, that this bill was not an appropriate vehicle to make significant changes to the assistance levels provided to students. Now, I think that's incredibly profound of the Select Committee to put put that in their Select Committee report, because I believe there's an acknowledgement from the members of that Select Committee that our students actually are being hard done by, and that something has to change. And I guess my challenge to the Minister of Social Development is, if it isn't this bill, if this bill is going to correct that anomaly, then what is the bill that is going to meet the needs of our students, to make sure that they are studying in a supported environment? Because students who are having to work 40 hours a week continue to pass their courses and actually achieve the qualifications that we need as a country to move forward. What is the Minister, what is the National Government going to do to address that situation? Kia ora.